What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast here. I have the wonderful and talented and lovely Missi Peckham on the show today. She's awesome. We talk about, she's a bars practitioner and a hypnotherapist. We talk a little bit about bars. If you don't know what that is, hold on a few seconds and you will. It's really neat. Also, talked a little bit about the Imagination Project as well as Freedom Cell Network in this podcast. I want to go ahead and plug that. But Missy's great. She leads a meditation toward the end of the show. The quality is quarantine quality. So I wish it could have turned out better, but the magic is in the message, as we know. So please enjoy the show, folks. Big thanks to Missy. And we're doing comedy every night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night this week, and every week until we're out of this on the Flying Squid Comedy channel. So check that out as well and enjoy this interview with the lovely Missi Peckham. All right. Welcome to Bootsy Greencast, because I couldn't come up with a better name. And I am joined with the lovely and talented Missi Peckham. Missy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you. We spoke, probably 2 or 3 months ago for a while, and it was an awesome conversation. I'm really excited to meet you. Missy's from Savannah, and she is a bars practitioner and a hypnotherapist. So she is a healing worker off the coast of Georgia here, only a few hours away, and I very much look forward to getting down there and meeting you.
Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
How much fun can we have?
We can have too much fun. That's how much fun. we will. And so I wasn't familiar with bars when you introduced it to me. So if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that, just to kind of give it a little bit of an introduction.
Sure. Yeah. It's Access Consciousness Bars, and it's a very gentle, hands-on modality. So during a session, which lasts about an hour to an hour and a half, the practitioner will gently touch your head in different spots, different points on the head. So if you feel on your skull, you'll see that you'll feel that there's some indentations on your skull, and it's almost like your head was made for that. Yeah, if you feel like right behind the base or right behind your ear, right at the base of your skull, there's like a little indentation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first point, and that's called your implant band.
Hmm.
And so when you touch each side of your head, it's going to release an electromagnetic charge, because everything running through our body is electricity. And as it releases the electromagnetic charge, all the thoughts, ideas, attitudes, judgments, decisions, beliefs that you might have had in any lifetime, which might sound weird to some people, but have limited you in any lifetime, you can release those judgments about yourself. So what I've noticed working with people over the last 5 years is most people have some judgments about themselves, and there is like this implanted seed of wrongness in most people. Like they feel like they're wrong somehow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I've felt that way certainly many, many times in my life. And do you have any idea why that might be, or is that from past lives?
Yeah, I think it's aliens. I don't know.
Cool. Yeah, we're getting right into the woo. I like it.
I have no idea where it comes from. All I know is that every person I've ever worked with has had some point of view that they are wrong in some way. And usually that point of view is implanted into them, like from birth. And it goes back to, and this is why I started studying hypnosis and hypnotherapy, because the subconscious mind is so powerful. And I guess we're in our subconscious mind when we're born until we're, like older. I don't know exactly what age, maybe
probably 3, 4.
7, 8, 9. Yeah. When critical thinking starts to come, on board, we're in our subconscious mind. And so everything we're programmed with is a program that goes right into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind takes everything super literally. Mm-hmm. So if you say to somebody, you're a bad boy, when they're little, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a bad boy. I'm wrong in some way.
Yeah.
And so when you yeah, when you run somebody's bars, it helps to dissipate and release a lot of those programs. So if you think of, like a computer and the viruses that muck up your computer, when you're running somebody's bars, you're actually clearing out their hard drive.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, and again, I can't wait to try it. I had an amazing breakthrough a few years ago with hypnotherapy. I had a hypnotherapist here out in Watkinsville, and she was great. We did like 4 or 5 sessions, and on the 5th one, she was like, "I've never had any therapist do this either. By the way, you're done," she said, and
you're fixed.
you're good. You're good. She's like, "If you want to work on specific stuff, come back, and I'm happy to work on more specific things with you, but like for what you came in for, you're good." And that felt incredible, and I felt incredible after the entire experience. So I have a huge I don't know, I love hypnotherapy. It was a really good experience for me, and I have a lot of positive things to say about it. So as far as the bar stuff, that's something that I definitely want to try, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I've talked to a couple people about past live stuff on the show. My friend Ralph, he's a energy healer. He does Reiki and he does theta healing. And so he talked a lot about the past life stuff and why we're here to, learn new lessons this lifetime and things like that.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. And I think for me, like I want to explore that, but it's up to each individual, I guess, how far they want to, how woo they want to.
Well, I tell people all the time, you don't have to believe it for it to work. And how I got into bars, I totally didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I was raised in a very religious home with my grandmother. She was reading the Bible to me and my brother since we were born, So it was a lot of the Bible was really implanted. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that every problem that came up, it was like, pray, ask God to fix it, talk to Jesus. Jesus will help you.
Right.
And, I started to notice that it wasn't the solution that I was looking for. That wasn't the whole answer to what I was looking for. It didn't help me when I was feeling anxiety or stress or depression or out of control. Just the prayer part was not the whole solution. And how I actually ended up getting into bars was I was in an abusive relationship with a live-in, this guy I lived with, and he beat me up. And I was, I left. Of course, I didn't stay, but after about 5 months, I was drinking myself to death, like just drinking so much just to be able to sleep, and then waking up in the middle of the night with PTSD and not even being able to get through my day without crying. I had my own business at the time, and crying in front of my clients was not a good thing. It just wasn't working for me. The drinking and all that wasn't working for me. So I went to a Reiki practitioner, and that didn't help. I tried traditional therapy, that didn't help. And I think different things work for different people. And I always tell people just whatever works, if meditating for an hour every day works, do that. If Reiki works, do that. Because different things will help for different people. It's not a one thing fixes all kind of deal. So I was at a hot springs. I saw these ladies in the water, and one was laying on a floaty mat thing, and the other one had her hands on her friend's head. And I was really pissed at them because they were so happy. They were laughing and they were genuinely joyful. They weren't faking. And it really pissed me off. And I was going to leave, and then I felt a shove on my left shoulder. And I heard I heard a voice in my left ear, and it said, "If you don't go talk to them, we're going to be mad at you." And I was like, "What the?" Yeah, and I walked over to them, and I was very surly, and I said, "What are you doing? It looks weird." And and they were very amused by me, and they said, "We're running each other's bars." And I said, "Well, what is that? Is that like Reiki?" Because as I mentioned, I tried Reiki and that didn't work for me. And I was already thinking that they were going to be full of, you know,
Full of shit.
caca.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was already in judgment of them. I was already in conclusion that it wasn't, whatever they were doing, it wasn't going to work. But of course, I, had this weird voice saying, if you don't go talk to them, we're going to be mad at you. So whatever it was, I just knew I had to talk to them. So I got the one lady's card and I went to her house and I just laid on her table and she put her hands on my head. And I was just thinking the whole time, I don't know what she's doing. I know it's not going to work, whatever it is. Nothing's worked, right? That was my thought process. And she really didn't say a whole lot. And then she said, well, okay, we're done and you're good. Like your experience, you're good. if you
Yeah.
have any if you have any cravings for salt, sugar, water, or movement, do that. And I was like, okay, those are weird instructions. And then I left her house and I was craving guacamole. So I went and had some guacamole and then I was like, I don't remember guacamole ever tasting this good. This tastes like orgasmic. This is like orgasmic guacamole. I walked outside and I was like, has the sky always been this blue? I felt like I was tripping on mushrooms, but I was totally cognizant of that, like it wasn't like a drug trip. It was like I'm alive kind of trip. And then I went home and I said, should I have a drink? Because that was my normal routine. I was like, nah, I'm gonna go work out. So I went and worked out for like 2 hours. I felt fantastic. Came home, I was like, should I make myself a drink? Nah, I think I'll clean. I cleaned my entire house. Went to bed that night, thought I was gonna have trouble sleeping because I felt so amped. Had so much energy. And then I slept like a baby I just slept the best I had slept in months. And then I woke up thinking there was just going to still be that, elephant on top of my head. And it was gone. And I called the lady that ran my bars and I said, what did you do to me? She was like laughing. She was like, I don't know. What did I do to you? And I said, I don't know, but I need to learn how to do this for other people. So that's how I started, and I did my training, which is if people want to do the class, it's a 1-day class. So it's really easy to learn.
Cool.
And you run somebody's bars twice, they run your bars twice, you get certified, and then you're certified to, you know, do that for your family. And it's helped a lot of people. One lady, I used to teach classes, and one lady who came to my class, her cancer went away after she took my class. So I've had miracles happen for me and for other people, but it literally gave me my life back. So I just say to people, just try it for yourself and see what happens. You never
That's
know.
awesome. Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos on it that you'd shared with me, and it looks really interesting and it sounds amazing. I definitely want to try it, and I want to. Right now I'm like I want to learn it.
Good.
Because there's nothing better than that feeling too. I think I know what you're talking about, like that. That just like you just feel so much lighter. Because I was doing the same thing actually. Like part of the reason why I went to hypnotherapy a few years ago was because of a breakup, and I was just not doing well. I was drinking every night. Just I was working at a bar, and I would just stop on the way home. It was like an hour's drive too. I would just stop on
Mm,
the way home and just like get a 12-pack of beer. I wouldn't even make it home before I'd start drinking it, and
mm,
I was having such a hard time. And then I met this girl, and she had a friend who she was like, she's real woo woo and out, because they were both massage therapists, and I was like, yeah, I want to speak with her. I didn't know really why. I didn't even know that she
mm-hmm.
did hypnotherapy necessarily, but I live in a small town, small college town, Athens, Georgia. There's not a lot of, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't met some of the people that would fit into that sort of category.
Yeah.
But it's a very academic town. There's a lot of people who, aren't they're not like against spirituality. There's a lot of spiritual people here too, but there's like a lot of academics and stuff like that too. And I don't really consider myself in that category. I went to college, but when
Good.
I got out, I basically had to unlearn and relearn a bunch of things about the world
Yeah.
afterward, because just the influence that college, has, and I've
Yeah.
always been a very curious person. So, it's like,
Mm.
I get out and then I was like, oh, well, why this, why that? And just started questioning things, when I got out politically specifically, I was like, cause I graduated in 2008. So I would have definitely voted for Obama, but I wasn't in the country and I loved him. And then about 2010, I realized, holy shit, man, this guy didn't do anything that he said he was going to do.
Whoopsie.
There's still a bunch of troops everywhere, which is my biggest thing. Like, that's the thing that I care the most about. Like, why are we at war for 30 years?
Yeah.
And we had planned a little bit to get into some of the political stuff. There's just a lot happening right now. And I think that I don't want to say conspiracy, like a bad word, but the sort of movement of people who are curious and asking questions about the nature of reality. And then
Mm-hmm.
other people who, maybe take it from a more internal place and are asking about the nature of reality. I think these worlds are starting to come together a little bit. Maybe they have been for a while, but when I first started really asking questions about the nature of reality, it was from the external, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was like, maybe 2012, maybe 4 years after I graduated college. I had another breakup at that point because I was reading books like 1984 and Brave New World and
Mm.
many, many, many others. I mean, a lot of Aldous Huxley, and then, Machiavelli, whatever I could get my hands on, and a lot of political philosophy, like French political philosophy around the time of the founding of America. So like Etienne
Mm.
de la Bourdieu, who wrote The Politics of Obedience, and many, many, many other weird books that I could find.
I love your curiosity. It's awesome.
I can't help it.
It's, it's amazing. And there's two kinds of people. There's cow people and horse people.
Okay, tell me the difference between them.
Well, the cow people like to stay in the same pasture, and they like to, just it's a herd mentality.
Mhm.
And if the horse people are the ones that want to go and explore different pastures, and they're always curious about what's on the other side of the fence, and the cow people are like, you're wrong. You shouldn't leave our pasture.
Yeah, I'm good here. Like, why are you pushing to go to the place that might be greener,
Yes, yes.
But I do think that these two worlds are starting to come together. At least I hope people are, because like when I got into all the conspiracy stuff, like that did a number on my psyche, right?
Yeah.
Was,
Yeah, it can send you down the rabbit hole of nowhere.
right. Yeah. A lot of people talk about the dark night of the soul. That is something that is an experience that was very real for me. I don't know that that's absolutely necessary for everybody. I hope it's not, because it sucks. But
Yeah.
but like I had that experience. I stopped seeing. I was a RAF guy, and then I came home, and I was dating this girl, and she was like so sick of me, like listen, all the things that I had to say. But what about this and what about that? And oh my god! And then I started listening to Alex Jones, so I don't blame her for breaking up with me for that. But in 2012, it was a little bit different. But then after I'd say maybe like a year or two of that, I mean, I just got to the point where I was so depressed and bummed
Yeah.
out that I needed something else. So I started to look more internally and found
Good.
things like Buddhism and the Tao, and ultimately like a bunch of self-help kind of stuff. So those two worlds really started to collide, and then I really started to lean more into the spiritual sort of world. And I haven't really paid attention to politics at all in the past probably 2 to 3 years, and they've been 2 or 3 of the happiest years of my
Yeah.
life. But I do feel that it's necessary, especially right now, to just at least keep an eye on what's going on, and hopefully we've come, or at least I have, to a place with practicing self-development and control of my thoughts, that
Hmm.
I can handle heavy stuff and then also
Yeah.
stay
And
positive in
I'll
the face.
I'll give you a really quick tool that you can use if you have heaviness. So what you can do is ask yourself, is this mine or someone else's?
Mm.
Because most of us are very psychic, whether we acknowledge that we're psychic or not, and we're
Hmm.
picking up on, a lot of people's fear right now and anxiety. And if you ask yourself that question and just sit with it for a minute, is this mine or someone else's? And you get that it's not yours. You can do what Elvis does and return to sender. Return to sender with consciousness attached, which doesn't send the fear back to its originator, just sends it back with consciousness so people can have awareness. And I've noticed a lot of people saying to me lately, well, be safe, and my response to that is I don't even know what be safe means or stay safe means. I just say I'm always aware, and that keeps me really safe.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, I think, everybody's just like, wash your hands, don't touch anybody. And it's been tough, man. I realize how much I like to be around people,
Yes.
and I like my privacy too. Like, I don't want anybody breathing down my neck at the grocery line that's a stranger or something. But
Yes.
like, it's tough. I mean, we are human beings. We need physical touch. It's important
Yeah.
to have. And so one of the things I'm most excited about is giving people a hug. Luckily, my mom
Yes.
was really freaked out about this when it first started to happen. And because she was like, it might be a biological weapon. It still may be. I don't know. But she was like locking herself in her house and like wiping
Mm.
everything down. I would still go over there, but I would just kind of like hang out on the porch. And then after a couple of weeks of this, she finally called me on the phone one morning and was like, hey, what are you doing? Can I come over? And I was like, yeah, my house looks like a fifth grader took a bunch of LSD, but sure, come on.
I love it. That's awesome.
There's just like puppets over here and over there, like dishes out in the sink, and
I love it that you have puppets.
my
Great.
whiteboard and a bunch of weird scribblings on there. But yeah, and then she came over, and then we're like, okay. She was like, I want to go drive by the hospital. And she was thinking she was going to go in. And I was like, well, let's drive around, whatever. We drove around, and still a lot of people out here, even though it was shelter in place. And we drove by the hospital, and it definitely wasn't busy. It wasn't any busier than it ever is. Either one of the hospitals that we drove by. I mean, that's not necessarily great evidence, but I mean, it's a small town here. And there's a lot of communities around that Athens has to serve that are like smaller communities. Like if you live in Colbert or some Jefferson or something, then you would come here to this hospital. So there's a lot of smaller communities that we serve as far as the hospitals and stuff. And definitely they weren't any more busy than usual. Not that that means necessarily anything, but we were curious. And
Yeah.
well, she especially was. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, I'll bite, because I'd been going around, I'd been getting her groceries and doing things like that. And
Aww.
been out and about, to just try to make sure, because I want to make sure, of course, she's okay. And,
Sure.
and everybody who's friends of mine, some people have taken it a lot more seriously than other people. But I noticed that on Facebook, you've been one of the ones who has been brave enough to speak up about
Yeah.
this. I think a lot of us, myself included, like I'm afraid of shame and people, like talking about me like I'm a crazy person or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Obviously, I have none of that fear.
well, that's good.
Yeah. So, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What would you do if you weren't afraid of shame?
That's a good question.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I would be far more outspoken, but the thing that I also keep in the back of my mind is not even that, because I have been more outspoken in the past. But also it's not just it's the polarization of it. So I wouldn't want to drive a wedge between myself and someone, even though I've seen, a lot of people who I respect and who are friends of mine, and we have differences of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of my friends, we can have a difference of opinion, and it's not a, it's not an issue. It's not something that we lose a friendship over, or,
That's great. Yeah.
something like that. Like, especially like my friend Kelly, who I do comedy with, he's definitely more of a very, left brain sort of type of person, and he's
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
his own research, and his research. That's another thing too that's worth mentioning, is that whatever it is that we're looking for evidence of, then we'll find it right now. I just feel like there's an intentional flooding of information on the
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's hard
Yeah.
to know what's true and
Yeah.
not, so
So,
that's
so the way that I find truth, the way I find my true north is I ask myself, what do I know about this? What do I know that I'm pretending not to know?
yeah,
Because consciousness is the willingness to be aware of everything. And for myself, when I go on Facebook, I'm very aware that I could get into this polarization you're talking about of resistance and reacting and aligning and agreeing. And whenever we resist and react or align and agree, it locks us up. Like we put our barriers up, we put our blinders up, and then we shut our awareness off. So if we're willing to be more in a neutral place and ask questions like you so beautifully do, and I applaud you for that and acknowledge you for that. If we start to ask questions like, what would it take to outcreate this reality? And what else is possible that I haven't imagined? We start to activate our our frontal lobe, and our brain works a lot like Google, well, better than Google. But when you ask your brain a question like that like, what can I do to outcreate this reality? And you just sit with that question. You might not get the answer right away, but eventually you'll get an awareness or an idea will pop into your head. When you're in the shower shaving your legs, as you do,
right.
um, that's when my best ideas pop into my head. And I'll be like, oh, yeah. I'll get an awareness. Like I've had the awareness from the beginning that there's something really going on behind the scenes, that there's an agenda of fear. And so fear and shame and all that kind of stuff are distractor implants. And shame and blame and fear and anger and rage and all that stuff, they will distract you from your life. And so when somebody's getting really angry on Facebook about, like it was very weird for me to have my first experience of this, where one of my friends I've had for a really long time on Facebook, I've never met him in person, but he also does a podcast in Salt Lake, and I always have really great conversations with him on Facebook, and he blasted me. He's like, "Well, you're going to kill people if you go outside, and you live your life. You're going to kill people." And I'm like, "What is this? I don't even know what this is." And I realized, just from my own awareness, he's really scared.
Hmm.
Like people are really buying into, the fear. And, like when I go out and I see people walking around with masks, I get the awareness that they're really scared. They're
Hmm.
scared. And what are they scared of? They're scared to die, or they're scared to get sick, or they're scared of dying a terrible death. And then, okay, so what do we do with that? We got to really explore what we're afraid of. And I think that's a great thing to do, is explore, what are like, what are you really afraid of? And once you go really deeply into what you're afraid of and feel all those feelings, you might find something deeper there. So what do you think about that?
No, I think that's excellent. No, I totally agree. I mean, there's a way, this is clearly overhyped. Like, and I've been saying that since the beginning of this, and also, and I'm very forthcoming on my Patreon. I have to be a little bit careful on YouTube, just because
Mm,
I'm playing the YouTube game on YouTube, right? And
mm-hmm.
I guess if I want to talk about like more of this kind of stuff, I would maybe start a BitChute channel or something. Or, I'm happy to talk about it on the podcast. I'm happy to be 100% honest and forthcoming. But on my Patreon, I can really, like, I put an article on my Patreon about which was a U.S. Department of Justice article that my friend Isaac sent me, who's a nurse, and it was about this guy who was over in Wuhan, and he's being investigated for potentially, working in, he's like into nanotechnology and all this kind of stuff. So he's being investigated for potentially, creating this.
Mhm.
So, that's a very real thing. That's a Department of Justice. No conspiracy theory there, right?
Right.
That's a Department of Justice article that's saying that this guy's being investigated for, you know, treason, like
Mhm.
creating a chemical weapon potentially.
Sure.
So that's very real. And the line is just thinner and thinner. I think that people are definitely have reacted, have absolutely reacted. They've bought into the fear, and
Yeah.
they started freaking out. And I was just like, guys, come on. Like, I understand that this is something to be concerned about, but and there's a lot, so there's a lot of double speak and a lot of just confusing things being spread, confusing intentionally. I think that that's weird. Like, for instance, Bill Gates, right? This guy's been talking about bringing the birth rate to zero on his TED Talks. So
Yeah.
he's clearly not a believer in overpopulation, right? He wants to bring the birth rate to zero. He wants to use vaccines to do it. If people want to
Mhm.
get vaccines, then go get a vaccine. I don't care. Go get your flu shot. I don't want
Mhm.
my flu shot. Uh,
Mhm.
I've
Yeah,
never.
I don't either cuz I know what's in it.
Yeah, and I'm not. I'm not into that. And then there's going to be a lot of people who, like, people around me here in town who are like academics who are like, well, we've got to get a vaccine. If we got a vaccine for everybody, and it's like, look, dude, like chill out, like force. I don't think good ideas require force. When I went through that whole
Mm.
conspiracy political philosophy time in my life, I came to some pretty profound conclusions. And I wouldn't consider myself to align with any particular political philosophy. I guess I'm an anarchist, but that's because I
Cool.
believe in true human freedom. And I know we're never going to have that,
Yeah, and to me, the scariest part is the imposition of the government on our freedoms, like these pastors who are being cited or arrested for trying to hold just a drive-in church service. People that I heard a guy got arrested for paddleboarding alone in the ocean. What the?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
That
It's like,
doesn't like he's not hurting anybody.
right.
They've got drones in Savannah. They've got drones going over the park and telling people to social distance from each other.
Oh my God. I had no idea there were drones there already. That's insane.
Yeah, there's drones like at the park telling people to social distance and we're all in this together.
Oh my God, dude.
It's weird.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's super weird. It's Orwellian, to say the least, just to have
Very.
drones. And then a lot of people, that I've talked to, it's like, well, if we had an app that everybody was on and we could figure out
Ugh.
who's got it and who's already not gotten it. And I'm like, don't you understand what a slippery slope that is? I mean, do I really have to explain how potentially dangerous it is to give away all this information? We have no idea of privacy anymore. We've lost tons and tons of civil rights. We're getting down to like the last three.
Yeah. What are we allowed to do anymore?
I mean, we can still have guns and we're supposedly still have free speech if we're not censored by all these private companies. But see, that's part of the problem too, is we live in a truly fascist state at this point.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
become,
it's a police state.
and it is becoming more and more like that. When you take, and I'm really upset about, see, like, people are upset about the virus and they're scared and there's a lot of fear. And I respect that. Like, my friend, I have lots of friends who are like, I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to do this. I'm like, dude, do whatever you think you need to do. I'm not
Yeah,
going to tell you how to live your life.
right.
Please do me the honor of also not telling me how to live my life. But what I'm most upset about, and what I'm mostly, if I have any fear, it's really about the economy going forward, because I think we're going to
Yeah.
come out of this, and after that bailout where they just took $2.2 trillion or whatever, and we get that big fat 1200. Can't wait for that.
Mm, I know. It's gonna go far.
Yeah, right. That'll almost pay my rent and bills for this month. But But yeah, no, I mean, what I'm more concerned about that and what's really going on, behind the scenes as well, I've thought about this a lot where it's like, okay, well, there is this thing and it is a threat and it is potentially, harmful to a lot of people. I don't want anybody to be hurt, like, and I think that's a big reason that that's a big argument too. It's like, well, just because you won't get it doesn't mean you won't spread it to someone else. And how would you feel if you, made someone else sick, and of course I'm not trying to do that, but I mean, if you're not going out licking flagpoles and then going to the nursing home after that, then you're not,
Yeah,
like, you wash your hands, you do the little things that you need to do. You're not being irresponsible.
there's not a lot of common sense or logic in that argument either, because, if you look at the facts, if you have a healthy immune system, you're probably not going to get it. And most, 99 whatever, the science tells us most people are recovering nicely.
Right.
And so what is there really to be afraid of,
I don't know. And it's like, if we all stayed home, we'd all starve to death. Like, we
Yeah.
can't just stop living life. And it's like,
Yeah.
we're saying, what are we afraid of? And that tends to be well, are you afraid to, of getting sick, of getting, this disease that's temporary? It's not like polio. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. It's like the flu, and it's probably a little bit more severe than the flu. And
right.
And the news I've noticed is intentionally not covering people who are getting better. They're just not covering that. I wonder why.
No, they're pushing that fear pendulum, and I'm disappointed that everyone has been so eager to just jump right on it, like,
Yeah.
it's like, why aren't people questioning this? It's okay to question things, last I
Right.
checked.
Yeah.
But with all the shame and things like that, and it's like, well, and back to Bill Gates, if you are interested in bringing the birth rate to zero, which the birth rate needs to be 2.2 for every, just to keep even, right? And he believes in overpopulation. I don't believe in overpopulation. I think overpopulation's a myth. I think that's a really good and convenient excuse for people who are eugenicists to limit the world's population. So they ran a test called Event 201 with the Johns Hopkins Medical Center.
Yeah, I read about that.
Along with Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Last October, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then they didn't do anything about it. What's that called?
Yeah.
That's really disappointing. If you've been warning about a pandemic coming for the past 5 years, as it claims to be, and you ran a practice scenario of this and you knew some of the things that may happen, who is that scenario designed for, and who is it supposed to protect? In my opinion, or at least the evidence would show that it's made to help people who are in positions of power, like himself, figure out how to deal with it from their perspective, and not necessarily to help anybody else. There were no extra masks made. The guy's a billionaire philanthropist. You would think that he would have a stockpile of PPE equipment. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really know too much about the guy. I've done research, and I've seen,
I guess he's facing trial in India for, killing a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Robert Kennedy Jr. has been posting a lot of stuff. And I had no idea, like the World Health Organization. I mean, if you start diving deep into just the World Health Organization, those are some nefarious creeps.
Yeah.
And Bill Gates, and he definitely has an agenda to sterilize girls and women, and he's done a lot of damage to a lot of innocent, mostly children. So I don't see how people can call him a hero, but that's just my opinion. I guess they haven't done the research.
I mean, he is the epitome of white privilege at the second most rich man in the world. His parents were tied to the Rockefellers, worked with them. And, I mean, now he's being touted as this expert, but he doesn't have a degree in any medical field. He's not an
No.
engineer.
Yeah.
He's not a doctor.
Nope.
He has been linked to Epstein, which is and owns, a bunch of patents about different viruses and things like that. So there's like a lot of sort of red flags at the
I
very
think he might have own the patent for the COVID-19 virus as well.
That's too close to home. That's too weird, man.
I heard a rumor, but and who knows what's really true.
Right.
I don't need people to prove things to me. I don't need to get caught up in those arguments. I just go with my own awareness. And when I look at Bill Gates, I see like a dark Sith Lord. I can see the evil in his soul.
He just looks
There's
like a guy I would love to peg with a dodgeball, like, oh man, perfect. Perfect target for a game of dodgeball, buddy. Butts up, let's do this thing.
Yeah. And
I agree with you. I think that like a lot of the stuff that just gets parroted and thrown around and speculated on, it starts to snowball out of control, and people start whispering about this, and it's like this big game of telephone. So I think it's more important now to really listen inside of ourselves, like you're talking about. That's so important.
Yeah really unplug from the TV and start asking yourself questions about your own awareness. And the only way you're going to get to that is to spend some time with yourself. And this is a good time to do that. Just spend some time alone and sit with yourself. Start, if you can't sit still for 10 minutes, start with 5 minutes. And just ask yourself, what do I know about what's going on in the world right now? What do I know that I've been pretending not to know? Just ask yourself that question and sit with it for 5 minutes, or go for a walk and turn everything off and just ask yourself questions.
Just shave your legs,
Shave your gut, for hell's sakes. Shave your legs.
But no, it's true. That's something that we need to do anyway. And now is an amazing time to do it. It's like most people don't know what they want. They have no idea, really even, I don't think really even who they are in a lot of ways, ultimately. And that's because of a lack of not being alone, not sitting alone. Instead, we turn on media, television, music is a great distraction. I love it. I'm a huge music person. But
me too.
There's times when you just need to turn it off and listen to yourself. And if you really want to develop as a human being, and find who you are, what your talents are, what your destiny and purpose on the planet is, then it's going to be pretty necessary to tune some of this stuff out and just look within yourself. We all have skills and talents that can be used to benefit humanity. As an idealist, I feel like each one of us is like a spark, like a divine spark, but we have to be able to, cultivate that, blow on that fire and make it, catch up, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is a really good time for that. And, and there are definitely people out there who are nefarious and have, and want to control, the population. That's absolutely true. It's been true as long as human beings have been on this planet. You can take the Machiavelli book, The Prince. It was written in like, I don't know when it was written, like 1500, 1600.
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
In a land far, far away.
Exactly. Italy, actually. But then, you've got like Utopia by Sir Thomas More too. That was written in like the 1500s. And it talks about how to make criminals of your people and then punish them for their crimes. Right.
Wow.
It's already coming from both sides at that point. It's like, oh, well, we're just going to make this a rule and this a rule. What do? Oh, they do that. Well, let's make it illegal. And then we can charge them for it or stick them in a cage or, whatever it winds up being.
Yeah, let's close your business and then we'll give you a loan to keep your business going. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
That's rough. And I mean, the middle class is just being torn to shreds. I feel so bad for people who have bootstrapped as much as they can. Like for instance, our business, we started about 3.5 years ago as an Airbnb business. I started out just renting my extra bedroom for $18 a night or something like that. And then,
Nice.
and then I approached some people and who had empty places. One really close to the football stadium. One was out in the Lake Oconee on the golf course. It was like a $2.5 million house or something. So I just made friends and partners with those folks. And I'm like, hey, you have this empty place. I'll rent it out for you on Airbnb. And if there was no furniture, we would provide furniture for it, take the pictures, post it on Airbnb. And then I created this whole business and it started
Wow, that's great.
doing really well. But I mean, I had every dollar I made, I was reinvesting into the business. I was working at a bar and just basically taking, not all my tip money, but a decent portion of my tip money to throw back into the business and buy couches and all that kind of stuff. And then we just got to the point this year. This is the first year where last year we made I think we wound up making like $2,000 overall.
Nice.
And then this year was going to be much, much better. Everything was paid
Mm-hmm.
off. All my couches that I went to Ashley or, all these, different places that I went to buy furniture, all of it was finally paid off. We were like, all right, this is our year. And then this thing has happened. And Airbnb.
Bill Gates owes you some money, baby.
Yeah, right. He's got plenty, and with these charity kind of things, these foundations, it is just the most perfect way to launder money legally.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just not a better way to do it,
Yeah.
But
I know.
But yeah,
I just think for me, and I want to mention pendulums because you're probably one of the first people I ever found that was talking about transurfing and explained it to me in a way that I could get. So thank you.
My pleasure.
But yeah, I can, now that I am aware of pendulums, I'm like, we're in a pendulum. We're in a pendulum of fear. We're in a pendulum of, whatever this money thing is. And so when we talk about money, I have to remind myself that I'm the creator of my life. I'm the creator of every cent that comes into my bank account. So like last night, I mentioned to you, I got a part-time job delivering pizza because I was laid off. Because I'm always like, well, how can I outcreate this? Which is a great question. And so we are energy, space, and consciousness. And I'm just going to give people some gold here. If you ask yourself, what energy, space, and consciousness can me and my body be to be the money we truly be? So you're asking the universe, show me the money. Can I have the money now, please? And what energy, space, and consciousness can me and my body be to be the money we truly be for all eternity? Because everything's energy. What Bill Gates is putting out is a one kind of energy, but you are not less powerful than Bill Gates. That's what I really want people to get, is that they have got to acknowledge that they are the most powerful creator on the planet. And if you acknowledge that and you're willing to be that, you can create some powerful shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that I can't agree. I can't agree more. We have so much power and we just forget about it. It just lies dormant for a lot of us, but and I think what's going to happen after all this is said and done, I don't know. I can only speculate. And again, there's just so much information out there that I don't know what's true and what's not. And we're all locked in our homes. So how can anybody really know? But
I'm not locked in my home because I'm not going to lock myself up in my home because that's not how I create my life.
Right. Totally. But I think what's going to happen after this is people are going to be upset.
I hope so. I hope they start to wake up. I hope this is the Great Awakening. Like I've heard a lot of light workers and energy workers say, oh, this is the Great Awakening. I'm like, yeah, I hope so. But I still think there's going to be cow people and horse people.
Yeah.
I think the cow people are still going to go along with the media. They're still going to go along with the rhetoric and the pendulum. They're going to be in, like still go along with the propaganda, which that's all it is propaganda. And the horse people are going to create a different reality. They're going to create something different from this. They're going to say, this old system hasn't been working. This old monetary system hasn't been working. This old political system hasn't been working. We're going to create something different.
I love that. And speaking to pendulums, that's really the only way to defeat one, is to create our own game, and there are a couple places where people are starting to do that too. I would recommend checking out the Imagination Project. It's with a Z instead of a T. Imagination.
Okay.
That's Jessa Reed's project that she's been putting together, and I'm sure a lot of other people too. I just don't know anybody else offhand who's directly involved with it, but I know that she's been pushing that for a while. And then there's also the Freedom Cell Network. There's Derek Bros, who I've been watching a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He made a 5G documentary as well, and he's been following along on Bill Gates' stuff pretty closely. I found out about this lockstep simulation from about 10 years ago. Apparently there were like 3 or 4 different sort of ways that things could go, maybe. But this is the lockstep simulation. Is something that, if you're curious about what's happening now and any of the research that's been done on it prior, what the goals of people who are potentially behind this may or may not be, then that would be a really good place to look. The lockstep simulation. I hope this is a great awakening too. I spent about 3 days last week just face planted into my couch because I was so bummed out.
If you have that experience again, call me. I'll get you out of your couch.
Okay, that's great.
That's
great.
what I'm good at.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, fantastic. I'll keep you on speed dial. No, I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of stuff, my business kind of deal, where I don't know what's going to happen with that, and then just not being able to talk to certain people. It always frustrates me, family, different people like that. And then just exhaustion too, because I'd been kind of going nonstop since about the early part of January. And when I got home from being on cruise ships, I went immediately to LA and then came immediately home, and then started working on a TV show as soon as I got home. And I worked on that until this whole thing came up, and we had to kind of pause production on that. So I was exhausted, and I needed some time, and I was also bummed out because I don't want to see this happen, and I don't want people to be afraid and be fearful of each other. You can't smile through a mask, and
yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I love people. I don't buy the overpopulation myth. I think that's stupid. I think that's a great reason to justify people dying, and I don't understand why someone who wants to bring the birth rate to 0 has any interest in saving people's lives. In fact,
it seems like counter
intuitive. Yes.
Yeah,
it's an oxymoron.
there's definitely a moron in there. Yeah. Somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we've talked about a lot of good things, and I'd love to give people a tool that can help them instantly calm themselves if they're feeling overwhelmed by, all of the fear that's happening in the world right now.
I love it.
So would that be okay to just do a little meditation, just a couple of minutes?
I would love that. That'd be great.
All right. Nice. All right. So if anybody listening, whether it's now or I guess it'll be in the future, because
I'll put this out tonight. I'm going to make it.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody who's listening, just wherever you're at, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're just home and chilling out, wherever you're sitting, just close your eyes and bring your awareness into your body and take in a deep breath into your low belly. Fill up your low belly with your breath. Hold it at the top, and then just breathe out. And get really aware of 3 points, like your feet on the floor, and your butt in the chair, or your wherever you're sitting or laying. Maybe your hands. Just get really aware of your body. And just say, hi, sweet body. Put your hand over your heart and bring all the craziness, the thoughts, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, bring that all down into your heart. And just pretend you can breathe in through your heart and take in a breath in through your heart. And breathe out through your heart. And you can imagine a color if you want to, or just a white light, and breathe that in through your heart. Just calming down the nervous system. And think of something or someone. It could be your favorite car, bicycle, house, whatever. It could be a thing, or it could be a person or a pet. Think of something that creates joy and gratitude when you think about it. And breathe that in. And now imagine a color around your body, whatever that color is. Touch the walls with that color of the room that you're in, the ceiling, the floor. Go down into the earth. Just imagine going down into the earth with that color. And touch the core of the earth itself with that color. Go outside the building or the house that you're in and look down on the house like you're a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow man or woman. Now look down on the neighborhood that you're in, and the state, and the earth, and go out to the moon. And now you're out in the galaxy. Cool. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good.
Did you feel a little calmer?
Yeah, definitely. For sure. For sure.
So I got that from the Heart Math Institute.
Very
And
cool.
when you connect with your heart, it immediately will release those happy hormones like the serotonin, the dopamine, and it suppresses that cortisol, your cortisol. So when we're in fear, anxiety, we produce a lot of cortisol, which can, amp up our adrenal glands. It can cause a lot of havoc in our organs and our nervous system. So you just really want to be aware of, like what state you're in. Like start being super aware of what am I thinking? What am I watching? What am I putting into my brain diet? And what could I be doing with my time right now that could outcreate this? And what else is possible I haven't imagined?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're familiar with Byron Katie, but she does a thing called the work, and she asks 4 questions, and I know the first 2 questions are, is this true? And how can I be absolutely sure that this is true? So whatever information's coming in, you want to ask, is this true? And how can I be absolutely sure that this is true?
Awesome. I think that's great advice. And for people out there who want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
You can get in touch with me on Facebook, Missi, Missi Peckham. I am working on a website right now. It's not done. My email is magicwithmissy with an I at gmail.com. You can send in requests that way. But Facebook is probably the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Okay, great. I'll put all that in the show notes as well. And that way people can just click if they want to shoot something your way and talk to you more about about bars or hypnotherapy or some of this heart math stuff too. I love the Heart Math Institute stuff. Um, I really like using that. Honestly, like one meditation that I do very often is I'll just think of, usually it's my grandfather because he had a huge impact on my life. But like I'll just think of somebody that I love. It could be like my friend, down the street too,
Yeah.
and that just brings up this emotion of love, and
Sure.
then you just focus on that and that amplifies itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, the heart is a very, very powerful thing. I think it's often overlooked, and that's where we need to be focusing a little bit to suss out what's next. And I want to say thank you for your bravery and standing up. Even though people are frantic right now and fearful. And to everybody out there, thanks for listening to the show. Really appreciate it. We're doing a couple of comedy shows on YouTube on the Flying Squid Comedy channel.
Yay.
The next 3 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of every week until this quarantine thing is over. And those are only available live. So check that out. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 2 different podcasts each night. So check that out and check out Missi. And I will definitely link everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to meet you. I'm so excited. As soon as this is over, I'm jamming down to Savannah. It's only like 4 hours, maybe 5.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
And
I can't wait.
yeah, I just want to leave everybody with this question. What else is possible beyond fear?
I love it. Yeah, perfect. What else is possible beyond fear? Yep. We're going to leave it there with you guys. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And please check out Missi and check me out on Patreon.
Thank you, Bootsy. You're awesome.
You're awesome.